Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is right.
Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, we're back, and we would like to welcome from the beautiful Isles in the Pacific, Lopaka, Kapanui. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
Aloha. Good to be here. How's everything over there? We're trying to stay healthy here in the Pacific.
Yeah, same here. We're one of the few that's wide open, and it's just we're one of the weird ones where everybody's like, you got to protect yourself. I'm like, we're on the beach. Yeah, we're on the beach. I go, you can't get much more social distance than that because there's not too many people that park a beach blanket right on top of another person. Right. I mean, it's usually spread out pretty well. So and plus fresh air. So I think you think we're going to be okay. Yeah. So anybody that doesn't know about Lopaka, I mean, he has a book out, Mysteries of Honolulu. Did I get that correct?
Yep.
Available on Amazon, and I think you have a link on your website, don't you, to the book as well?
Yeah, we do.
And that's mysteries-of-hawaii.com. You can go there and check that out. He also has a live program that they show on Facebook. You can go there, I believe, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and sometimes Fridays.
Sometimes Fridays, depending. Yeah.
All right, so we're batting 1,000. Yes. All right. So we brought him on. I saw you on the Reverend Sean Whitty's Paranormal Ministry, and I was blown away not only with your presence, the way that you carried yourself. It was one that not only was it inviting, it was like, I want to sit in front of this man and just listen to him talk. Let him tell me stories, because it was amazing the stuff that you would tell, and it seems to come from you so effortlessly. You could just sit there and I just awesome job. I mean, I don't know what to say other than it's like fantastic. And the state legislature recognized you last year as a master storyteller.
That was unexpected.
And it's well deserved. Because the first question I was wanting to get with you is, what got you into this area, of the paranormal, of telling stories, going to your mentor, and learning to, tell these tales the way that you do?
The short story is, I was about 7 years old, had to go to the hospital, get my kidneys cleaned out. And during that time, the children's hospital, remember this 11-year-old kid somehow got a hold of a bottle of Coca-Cola, and we all snuck down the stairway, and we all had a sip, with our bad kidney conditions. And I ended up having to get surgery. And so when I came out of it, I overheard the doctor telling my parents that they actually lost me for a minute.
Damn. Wow.
And and from that time I could, see, feel, and hear things, but I didn't know what was going on because my adoptive parents were Portuguese Catholics. And, they were very, very pious. So I was afraid to tell them what was going on. And then fast forward, I'm in Florida, having the time of my life. And my biological mom calls me and she says, listen, there's some stuff I want to pass down, but your your siblings aren't interested. Would you be able to come home so I can teach you these things? And I said, Mom, I'm having the time of my life, like drinking every night, party. And she's like, oh, okay, fine. And she hangs up the phone. And as mothers are wont to do, they kind of like do this thing before they hang up. So I called her back. I said, Mama, what's happening? She says, it'll only take 3 years at the most, but I need to pass this on. So I went home and literally sat at her feet, and she wouldn't allow me to write anything down. And so that was with herself and my aunts, and learned all these spiritual things. And the very last night of the very last lesson, there was really no formal class. All she said was, I just want you to know that everything you've learned up until now is not about you. And I was still kind of like full of myself. So I said, oh, no, I get that. She said, no, you're not going to understand until you're way, way older. But she said, just remember this, everything you know is not about you. And so I think I got home like an hour later, like 2:00 in the morning. And my older sister called and said, hey, Mom just passed away.
Yeah.
So it turned out, without my knowing, that Mom actually only had 3 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
And so when I meet my mentor, Glenn Grant, I go on this downtown, ghost walking tour, and the more the tour goes on, the more people start to show up. And about a week later, my cousin tells me, because I was part of a hula school, and he said, we're going to start dancing hula with a friend of mine who hosts a ghost tour, and this is going to be on the west side. And it turned out to be the same person. And so there was one night my cousin couldn't co-host the tour because his job was in Washington, D.C. He had to go fly to D.C. for work. And so Glenn was kind of freaked out. He said, I only know my part. I don't know your Hawaiian part. My cousin says, well, Lopaka knows it. And so I did it that Saturday. Monday, Glenn calls me and says, hey, that was pretty good. Would you mind taking on more work if I gave it to you? And I said, sure. So when the formal training began, we drove around in his red Nissan Pathfinder, to all the spots. And I'm sitting there with a pad and a pen. He looks at me, and this is a professor of American history. He looks at me and he says, what's that for? I said, I'm going to take notes. He says, no, you put that away and you listen and I'll talk and you retain everything. And I was like shocked because that's the same way my mom taught me. So it turns out when this guy, who's originally from Culver City, started to learn these things from other Hawaiian elders, they wouldn't allow him to write anything down either. So it was all mouth to ear. And the thing about that ghost tour was it was a bus tour, and it had 7 stops, and every stop had 2 hours of stories that you had to memorize. So there was no script.
Wow.
That's
Jeez.
well. I mean, if anybody, I'm trying. Do you have it posted up where people could see it? I mean, you, in honor of your mentor, you did 100 story, ghost stories. You read 100 stories. You told 100 stories back to and it took you over 6 hours.
6 hours, one sitting.
I'm like, I struggle sometimes to do an hour on here. And I'm not memorizing stuff. I've got notes, and I'm looking. I'm like,
Incredible.
He just remembered 100 ghost stories, all right here, just verbatim, just kept clicking them off, and I'm like, this is fantastic talent. I was hats off.
Yeah, after 6 hours, my wife and my oldest son had to help me out of the chair, and then we had a swig of whiskey and went to go get some cheeseburgers.
That's awesome.
Cheeseburger in paradise.
Cheeseburger in paradise. Hey, that's that sounds like a food truck.
Yeah.
It's based on the old Japanese tradition of what they call hyaku monogatari kaidan kai, and it was a way to test the samurai's bravery is to tell 100 ghost stories, and you blow out 100 candles at the same time, and so when you blow out the last candle, a ghost is supposed to appear. And no one knows what happens after that because no samurai ever got that far. They get freaked out by, I think, at least the 20th ghost story.
Wow.
But that was to honor his legacy.
I mean, I know it's like a weird question to throw out there because a lot of times, it's not just what would you say is probably either the most intriguing, scariest, just the one that when you tell this, most people, they go from just kind of looking around to all of a sudden all eyes are locked on you.
Oh, it's probably the one about the girl that was possessed on the west side of the island. You guys want to hear that one?
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. All right. So on the west side is this new sprawling development, and before they built it, all the old Hawaiians told them, this part of Oahu is not good for development because this is traditionally known as the realm of wandering spirits. It's people who died without families, committed suicide, like didn't honor their gods or their families. And so when they died, there was no guardian spirits to lead them to where they're supposed to go. So they just wandered, that specific area. But of course, the developers didn't listen. And after the development was over, I get calls at least 3 times a month. Something's in my house, something's going on. I think this was almost 10 years ago. But a nice Hawaiian couple called and they said, we think our daughter's possessed. Can you come help us? Come take a look at her. And I said, I'm a storyteller, I'm not an exorcist. But I gave her the number to 2, Catholic priests who could possibly help them. And about 6 months later, they called me back. And they said they called the numbers that I gave them, but one priest said that the process had a lot of red tape and it had to go through a lot of channels, probably as far as the Vatican before they could be an approval for an exorcism. And the other priest they talked to, basically, they said he started to swear at them and call them names over the phone and told them never to call him again. And so they said, can you just at least, just come and talk to our daughter? So against my better judgment, I said, okay, and I went. And really, really nice Hawaiian couple. And you could tell they adored their daughter. She's, the only child. And so we're in the kitchen. And they point up the steps and they say, at the top of the steps there, the first landing, that door to the left, that's her room. Just go knock on the door. And so I'm walking up the steps and like more than halfway up, and I noticed they're still standing in the kitchen. I'm like, are you guys coming? Go ahead.
Oh, wow.
No, you handle.
So I knock on the door,
No, you handle.
and the girl opens the door. Pretty young Hawaiian girl, college age, and she plops herself down on her bed, and she's busy on her laptop. And so there's an awkward silence, and I tell her, I said, so your parents tell me they think you're possessed. And she looks at me and she goes, yeah. And she goes back to her laptop. I ask her, so why would they think that? And she sits up and looks at me. She goes, well, and takes her hand and goes like this, and right around the room. And so what she's doing is she's showing me that her entire room is decorated in everything Twilight. So Twilight wallpaper, Twilight pillow covers, you name it. Totally Twilight. And the room is painted like a dark, velvet color. I said, so your parents think you're possessed because of Twilight? She says, well, yeah, that and the other thing. So I told her, I don't mean to be intrusive, but what's the other thing? She said, I came out to them. I told them I'm a lesbian.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I said, I'm sorry about that. So where her door was this little table. So I took my business card, put it on a table. I said, listen, if you want to meet with me and my wife and talk, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be about this. Just anything you want to, get off your shoulders. Just, give us a call. And she said, wow, that's really nice of you. And she introduced herself. She said, I'm Sienna. And I said, oh, I'm Lopaka. And so I went downstairs and the parents are like this, the dad's like this. And he says, so did anything happen? Did she physically attack you? Was there like the smell of sulfur? Was anything moving around? And I said, no. I said, she's perfectly fine. I think what you guys really need is maybe counseling or, go talk to your pastor.
Yeah, you need counseling.
Man.
And so the father says,
know.
what do you mean? He's serious. He looks at me. He says, what do you mean? I said, Sienna's just this normal college-age girl who has college-age stuff going on. She's fine. The wife, her hand goes on the husband's head like this, and she pushes him out of the way. And she grabs me like this, and like my face right up to hers. And she says to me, she says, no. She said, the thing that's possessing our daughter is Sienna. Her name is Carolyn.
Whoa.
So I hear this sound like this, fingertips. And I look up, and the girl's standing there with her door open, and she's doing like this.
Oh shit.
And then she looks at me and just, shakes her head and walks into her room. The door slowly closes, and as it hits the lock and the lock makes that sound, the door, the wall, all the way down to the kitchen, it just goes.
Dude, I just got goosebumps. Or chicken skin, what are they? It's like, oh my God.
Oh no.
I looked at the parents, I said, I'm sorry, I'm out of here. They chased me to the car and everything. They said, you can help us, right? I said, I'll give you a number to like a kahuna. That's probably your best bet. But I said, otherwise, whatever he says on top of that, go get therapy. Go get professional help just to cover yourself. And so I found out a short time later that kahuna did come. I'm not sure what happened. But later on is when they started to get professional help, because I told them there was an actual case where these parents insisted their daughter was possessed. They got the priest. The exorcisms went on, and the girl actually ended up dying from dehydration. And all three were sued for murder, like in court.
Ow.
Yeah. So I told them, go get that help, cover yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Wow.
But every time I tell this story, I can still smell that smell.
My God.
Yeah, it's one of those, like you always have the paranormal. I mean, is it because you always get people, it's like, I want to explain this. I mean, how do you explain that, almost like a shimmer, that shake, like you said, that just came from the door and just just comes down to you. I mean, that's not something that can be, easily explained away.
The only other time that happened to me is when I was on the Big Island at the theater, Kilauea Theater, in Volcanoes National Park. And I forget what story I was telling, but the whole theater shook from the back first, and then it shook on the side and went all the way to the front, and then shook all at the same time.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's not an earthquake. That's not a that's because you wouldn't be able to explain kind of a wave motion and then everything going.
Yeah, and the volcano's like within sight, you can see it. So I kind of looked out. That side door was open. I looked and I could see the glow in the crater, and I just bowed my head. I said, "Sorry, Tutu. I hope if I said anything to offend you, I'm sorry."
Now, I was, it's kind of, you said, with like the Hawaiian, gods, is that has there been ever something with the islands, because it's a massive chain, the sunken islands that are, further to the north. Has anybody gone like dive or anything to try to see if there's an artifacts, if there's any carvings, anything to show something from the ancient tribes that would, that would also, validate some of these things that I know that you've seen from the ancient, from the night marchers and from stuff, like that. I'm just curious if that's ever been done.
Oh, are you talking about the that landmass they called Lemuria?
Yeah. Because
like,
you have those sunken islands where it's just that island chain that continues on as it moves. I think there's like 2 or 3 sunken ones that are still, I think, within, diving distance.
Yeah. There's a book that talks about the people from the island of Molokai who believe that they were the first people here before any migration from the south. And so they call themselves the Mu people, a letter M-U. And there's a line over the U, so Mu, or the people from Lemuria. And so their belief was that they were the survivors of that landmass that sank into the island, to the waters, and that the island chains are supposedly what was left of it. And, it may seem far-fetched, but their history is very, very interesting. Because in one account, they said when the Tahitians and the Samoans came to basically subjugate everybody who was there and introduce the class system and human sacrifice, and they're stripping people's skin off the bodies while they're still alive. When this mass fleet came to the island of Molokai, in the story it says the entire island went to the shores of, I think, Kualakoi or Kaunakakai, and they stood there and began to pray. And as the canoes came, all the invaders, they say that the waters begin to boil, and that the people who are coming to subjugate them start to fall overboard, and they've got blisters and sores all over their body. And so it ends up that the island of Molokai is the only one that's not conquered by this system, by these invaders.
Wow.
Which is kind of funny because Kamehameha the Great, when he brought all the islands under his rule, Molokai was the only island he didn't have to go and do anything to.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's one of those where I was looking into these things. I've always been fascinated to there's always been, it seems like across cultures, there's always that common theme, the fire god, the water god, the god over land, the god over, just you go through these things, and it lends that thing to where there must be something to this for all these different populations, no matter where they're at in the globe, to have this commonality. I mean, different names, but they all have this same thing. This was the deity that was overseeing this, and you must do these steps to appease this deity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what it also comes down to as well is, survival. So people like that realize that they literally have to depend upon their environment physically and spiritually, for sustenance, for harmony. Otherwise, they're going to die, And that's why our parents were so big about, eating what's on your plate, and not making a fuss about it, because you don't know where your next meal is coming from tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And I won't lie. I learned about a lot of these from the Enchanted Tiki Room in Disney when I went there. That was when I first learned, most about them, because they do the whole show, talking about each, so that's where I've got most of that stuff from. And then just as I've been going on, you see the different ones, and it's, I think probably my favorite one is Pele. I'm not sure why, but I've always been drawn to that one.
Yeah, she's a very, very interesting study. Her story is that, as a young girl in the South Pacific, and they think it's actually Tahiti where this originated. She was being trained to stoke the fires by her uncle, Ka'ulula'au, Lonomakua, and he was the uncle who was the keeper of the flames, and so he was teaching her these arts. And her older sister is Namako Kahai, and she's the goddess of the ocean. And so, naturally they don't get along. But one day when the older sister's away, Pele accidentally burns down her sister's side of the island. And in some tales, some other versions on top of that, she's also sleeping with her older sister's husband. And so when the older sister gets home and sees all the devastation and realizes what's going on, Pele literally has to gather her family and flee for her life. And so as she's journeying to the fabled homeland in the north, she finds the Hawaiian archipelago. So coming down the island chain, every time she creates a volcano, her sister comes right behind her and peels out the fires. And so finally she makes a stand on the island of Maui, where she's defeated. And her family take her bones and perform a ceremony called kupaku, or unihipili. So basically her family, through their prayers, deify her to become, this volcano goddess. And so that's how Kilauea becomes her home. And it's at that point that, her sister, the goddess of the ocean, realizes that, now she can't defeat her sister, because now she's a true deity. And so that's, no, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say it's one of those fascinating things. I mean, this is one. If I get a chance, I want to go back and I want to see the islands and spend more time. Especially if you get a chance to go take one of your tours, go do these things cultural, because it's really fascinating. And especially when you get somebody like yourself that knows this history and that can just eloquently speak it, so well. It's one of those, you could easily see yourself sitting there for a 6-hour story session, at the same time, and just be like, do you guys realize it's been 6 hours? No. I mean, because even now, I can't believe it's already been 24 minutes.
No, keep going. No.
I know. I looked at the time. I'm like, oh my God, we're almost halfway through this. It's like, man, this is incredible.
Question: Does people on the island still pay offerings to the deities, or that's pretty much gone in the past? Or do they still celebrate the deities on special days and special beginning of the months and stuff?
Yeah, Hawaiian families who have a familial or family connection to that deities are the ones who will leave the offerings. My mom cautioned me that we can still honor our deities, but she said it's best not to leave food offerings. So if you leave like a biodegradable flower lei or something else, she said it's a lot better. She said because in the old days when food offerings were given, you were basically imbuing or empowering that deity. And so the one time you came with no food, that deity would come forward and take something else. So today it's still done, but it's a lot safer.
Yeah, that seems to be a tradition. I mean, the lei. I mean, because when we were there, one of the traditions was Duke.
Yeah.
Statue. You take the lei, and you present it to the Duke statue, and that was one. You see that, so that seems to be almost like a universal, just almost like a greeting as a way, presenting the lei to, to either, like you said, honor or, a welcoming.
Yeah, that poor statue, man. It's just festooned every day with all those leis.
I know. We were just getting ready for our trip. We'd always watch the Duke cam just to see, see what was going on. You just watch that statue. And so, but hey, Austin, you had one thing about the pass, Paulie.
Oh,
you want to ask?
The pork pass? What are you talking about? Yeah, I was reading up on that. That was funny. I forgot. Was it Pele, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that the story is that if you were carrying pork in your car would just shut off, and you had to get rid of that, and your car would start up. I thought it was fake. I couldn't believe that was a true story.
Oh yeah. I think 15, 20 years ago, we're doing a ghost tour coming back from the windward side, coming up the pulley, and the 45-foot tour bus starts to sputter like this. It's going, arr, arr. And the bus driver that night was not my favorite person, because he was just one of these guys who couldn't shut up. And so he's on the microphone, he's yelling, and it's a full bus. He's swearing too. Does anybody effing have pork? Who effing bought pork? So, and I grabbed the mic from him. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, shut up. I'll go find out. So I asked everybody. Nobody had anything. And so when I come back to the front of the bus, he's just driving like this. He's not saying anything anymore. I'm like, what happened? And so as we're driving up and the thing is still sputtering, he goes like this, and I come close to him. He goes, brother, I forgot I have a plate of roast pork under my chair.
Oh.
Like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, I was having it for lunch, but I got a call to do this tour, so I forgot it. It's under the chair.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, he pulled over. I got the thing. I scraped it off the side of the road. In Hawaiian, I'm apologizing. And as soon as I throw this stuff in a garbage can that just happens to be there, and I'm walking back to the bus is fine. It starts up.
That's incredible.
No problem.
What?
Oh my God.
So what is the basis, upon that, like why pork? What is it about that?
The goddess Pele had a lot of relationships and a lot of, right now kind of relationships, because, she's the goddess. But she hooked up with this guy that her whole family told her was the wrong guy. And in those situations, we normally don't listen. And so she did. She didn't. She hooked up with this guy. And I always joke when I tell this story. It's the wrong guy because he'll end up living with you.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point, actually.
Yeah. So it turns out it's the pig god, Kamapua'a. So everything about him is roguish and piggish, but he's so handsome. And every day he goes out and does whatever pig gods do. And while he's gone, people from nearby villages come up to the rim of the crater and they see Pele, and they tell her, Pele, ayakaukani ke kahawai me ke kaiwa hine eae. Your husband is near the river with another woman, and Pele doesn't want to be told I told you so. Wow. So she looks up and says, pa keleaku, be gone before I kill you. Another time, people from another village come down to the crater, and they're calling out, Pele, ike kumulao me elua maua hine ho'okahimanawai no kaukane. Pele, in the breadfruit tree with 2 women at once, there is your husband. And Pele looks up and says, and they leave. So it's not until her own sisters show up and come down into the crater, and they're sitting around her, massaging her shoulders, combing her hair out, and they tell her, Awe, eke kaiku hine, I hapuna, I kamawana, me elima maua hine, ayano kaukane. Older sister, with 5 women at once, in the ocean of Hapuna. There is your husband. So the story goes that later on that afternoon, as he's coming back home to the volcano, he notices something unusual, and he says, what a wondrous sight this is. The tidal wave coming down from the mountain. But as he looks closer, he realizes it's a tidal wave of lava. And it's coming on. And he says to himself, damn it, she found out. So this wave of fire, Pele is riding on it, and she's chasing him, and just nipping at his heels with these flames. When he gets to the district of Hilo on the Big Island, which is known for, a lot of rain, the pig god lies flat on his stomach, and as he begins to pray, the earth rises up, holds back the fire. Roots from great trees rises up, holds the fire back. And then he chants for the Ua Kanilehua, the torrential rain of Hilo, and it comes, and peels out the flames. And then Pele appears to the pig god and says, well, guess I can't kill you, so what are we going to do? And he says, let's make this agreement that from this point forward, on the windward side of every island, which just lush, green, and filled with comforting rains, that shall be my territory. And the leeward side of every island, hot, dry, arid, that's your territory. And none shall cross into the other's territory. And Pele says, Aoya. Agreed. So that was the godly, TRO.
Wow.
And so, according to that, pork is not supposed to enter through Pele's side of the island. And so you're not supposed to bring pork from the windward to the leeward side. But more specifically, there's this old road at the Pali Lookout. That's where you can't bring it. Up that specifically.
That's awesome.
And I wish I had a way to show you the picture.
Of which picture? I can actually look it up.
Yeah, it's a
Are you
picture
talking
of
about the lookout?
Yeah, you got that?
Yeah, I'll pull it up real quick. While we're doing that, it's just I was going to ask you too. It is incredible the wind when you go out there. You do not try to lean over and look over, unless somebody's there to help you, because you could easily get blown off. And that's I'm trying to bring up an image here. Let's see. I think here's one here. Let's see. Share that here. Yeah, we got. It is amazing, scenery.
Huh.
Wow, that's nice.
There it is.
It's pretty.
And if I'm not mistaken, this side right here is the west side.
Yeah.
Yep. You know how I did that? It's because there's trees. I was skilled. I was skilled.
God.
He said lush.
Can you see this?
Oh yeah. Here,
So that's at the Pali Lookout.
Oh wow.
And I don't know if you can see closer, but the guy who's holding that stuff in his hand, right under his hands, you're supposed to see this green swirling mist.
Yeah, I see something.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a greenish light right underneath his hands.
Yeah. So he's carrying pork. So this is on a tour where that boy wanted to make an offering to the pig god. And I told the guy with the flashlight, go take him down the road and let him make his offering and bring him back. And so my former assistant said, well, how am I going to know? I said, you'll know. And so when they come back, the kid is holding the offering, and my wife takes that picture, that green swirling mist. And so, like under my breath to my assistant, like I'm saying all sort of colorful things. So I looked at the kid. I said, what happened? He said he knelt down to make the offering. It was a tea leaf offering, and it was all wrapped at the top. And he said he put it down, did the prayer, made the offering. And I guess my assistant misunderstood me and tapped him on the shoulder and said, okay, bring that and let's go. And so the kid said the second he picked it up, the binding came off and it opened. And so you could see all the pork. I looked at him. I said, wait a minute. You're making an offering of pork to the pig god? And he said, yeah. I said, that's like offering a mother her own kids. I'm like, what were you even thinking? He's like, oh, I didn't think it mattered. I'm like, oh, my God. So I had to go back there myself at like 4:00 in the morning to offer prayers in Hawaiian, forgiveness and apologies. Because a lot of times in the tours, my main concern is about stupid people. The ghosts and spirits, no problem. Sometimes we get really a lot of foolish people. And so that photograph is one example.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, there's some of the stories that just, it's like you're not supposed to bring home a rock from the islands. It's supposed to stay there.
You can, as long as you ask permission. And that's where the problem lies. People don't believe in the protocol or the stories, and they do it anyway. All you have to do is ask.
No, if somebody hasn't, is there a process, or is that something that you tell people? It's like, hey, it's probably better if, here's a self-addressed, thing, send this to Lopaka, Kapanui, I'll make sure I put it back where, in some nice place. You've got a rock garden out there from all the people in the States.
Yeah. Right. I just tell visitors, just ask if you can take it, announce your intention, and, you should be fine. But the majority of the people are like, oh, well, this is stupid. I don't believe this. It's just a rock, and they take it, and then all hell breaks loose.
Can't figure out why they're
from a tree falling on the van they rented to divorce and a loss of money.
Yeah
They
can't figure it out. On your tours, have you ever encountered, like, I was talking to Craig about it, any night marchers and stuff?
There was one tour I was doing at the Chinese cemetery near where I live, and we had 38 architects, and so their boss booked the tour for a team building exercise. The architects were so freaked out, it took 15 minutes to convince them that they had to get on the bus to do the tour. And we got to the Chinese cemetery, and it took another 15 minutes to tell them the ghost tour isn't going to work unless you get off the bus, and we walked to the cemetery.
Nice.
And so the top of the cemetery, the top of the cemetery is the children's section. So it's 8-year-old kids. They're all 8. They all perished from smallpox. And when I turn around, this wind, like, it just tears through the cemetery. The big pine trees are bending this way. And the thing I notice is I can see the wind. I can see what it's doing, but I can't hear it and I can't feel it. And I'm suddenly perspiring like I'm encapsulated. And as soon as this happens, the architects are like running back to the bus. And I called my cousin the next day and told him what happened, about this sensation. He said, oh, last night was one of the night marcher moons. And that part of the cemetery where you were standing, you were probably in the procession. And so I said, how come I wasn't killed or anything? He said, that sensation you felt, being encapsulated and not being to hear anything, even though you could see it. He said, those are your ancestors surrounding you until the procession passed. He said, didn't you hear a name being called out? I said, I did, but I wasn't sure, if it was like somebody's radio, because there's houses right next to the cemetery. He said, no, that was probably one of your ancestors identifying himself, so you could be protected. So, yeah, that was crazy.
Is there always a like you said, you had that big rush of wind? Is that with everybody? I don't know. It sounds weird asking it, but like, are my ancestors there with me when I'm walking the tour? Like, what happens if night watchers come and I don't see anything or feel anything?
It's actually on the last 4 moon phases of the Hawaiian lunar calendar. So it's only on the last night of the last moon when it's dark. The night is Muku. And Muku is the night reserved only for the godly processions. And so that's when these like torrential winds come out of nowhere and just tear everything apart, and just rain just all of a sudden like that.
Yeah.
So it was probably that night.
Oh.
Wow. I mean, one of those, you mentioned it a little bit before we went on the air, the unseen. And that's now that one and the Menehune. I hope I said that right. Those ones. Now, have you had any like current, like, I mean, we're talking like within the last year of, sightings of the Menehune? I mean, I know they're legendary, but it's one of those, you can do whatever you think, if they're physically in some, underground, whatever. It's just, but has there been any current in more recent sightings of them?
Yeah, on Hawaii 5-0. The house they use is Steve McGarrett's house. That's the Bear Estate. And it's way out in Hawaii Kai, and it's right on the water. It's a beautiful place. But what it actually is, the Bear Estate is what they use for Japanese weddings. And so it's this nice, 2-story house, and upstairs is where the bride gets ready. And it's owned by a good friend of mine, Suze. And Suze's husband is a retired attorney. And so one year she allowed me to bring some people there to tell, 13 ghost stories. And after that was over, she bought, ice cream. What do you call those things? Popsicles? No, creamsicles.
Creamsicle, yep.
Yeah, gave it to everybody, and asked me. She said, "Do you mind if I, share with your people a little bit of history of this place?" I'm like, "No, go ahead." And so right off the top of the bat, she says, "A lot of people don't know this," and she said, "And I don't know the history either, but she says there are Menehune in this house and on the property." And right away, her retired attorney husband jumps in and says, "I was not educated to believe in these kinds of things, but until I saw it myself, I was a non-believer." And so they started to say that during the preparation for weddings is when they would see the Menehune the most. And so I said, for everybody else, could you describe what they look like? And she said they look, like they're Hawaiian, Polynesian. They're about, the build or the stature of you and I, except that they're less than 4 feet tall. But they're perfectly formed. They don't look like little people. And she said, and they're very, very brown. And she said, I don't even know how to describe the brown color they are, but it's almost like looking at an end table that's colored a dark brown. And when they put that shine on it, I forget what they call it. She said they look like that.
Huh.
And so the weird thing is, she's over there talking about it, and my people are sitting in front of me over here, and she's like talking to them. And I glance into their living room, and there's this brown end table. And I just sort of glance this way, and right underneath this leg, I see someone go like this.
Ha! No.
And I'm like,
Hey. No
Yeah.
way.
And whoever that little man was got up and walked across the living room, went past the fireplace, up the stairs. And I remember, I don't know what my face looked like, but I remember just goosebumps on top of goosebumps. And the only thing I could think to myself in Hawaiian was, grandfather, I'm so sorry. I'm in your presence and in your place without any offerings. And so I offered my creamsicle. And I said, in Hawaiian, this is all I have, but I'll come back again for a proper offering. And I didn't say anything the entire night except, goodbye and thanks for coming. And on the way home, my wife was like, so what happened? I was like, it's not freaking Menehune. Like, right there. And
Wow.
Suze brought out some pictures that they'd taken in the house, and unknowingly you see these little eyes and little faces, in corners underneath chairs. So I'm still researching any kind of Menehune history in that part of the island of Oahu, because it's where the swanky and the rich live. So I'm imagining there must still be some sacred places in that part of town.
Yeah, that's that's one of those other questions. I'm glad you said that, was because that's one of the things I was going to ask you. I mean, we never really got to get to that side of the history since we had such little time.
Mhm.
But what would you say is probably the most sacred place, point, location, whatever, in Oahu, since that's where you spend most of your time?
It's a trek to get out there, and what I will say is you have to know the time and the night to be there. But it's called Kaena Point, and it's the westernmost tip of this island. And there's a place called Lelena Kauhane. It's the leaping stone of spirits, and that's where people's spirits who recently passed away within the month. There's a long procession out to that rock, and they leap into the next world. And so for some Hawaiians, it's Kanehunamotu, the hidden island of the god Kane. For other places, it's Kuaihelani, the god, the realm of the gods. And I would like to say that it's all fable and myth and far fetched, but I've seen too many that it's not real. It's the real deal.
That part of the ocean, is that recommended not to fish there? Because it seems like if that's a leaping point, I mean, that seems like that would be a portal, a location to the after. I mean, it doesn't seem the place to throw the pole in there and try to catch a fish. I'm like,
if you know the local fishermen, they'll tell you when the time is, and when it's not smart to be there. I'll tell you what, if you can Google and figure out when sidereal time is in the islands, then you'll know when the time is to have that experience.
Awesome.
I'll have to write that down. And
yeah,
I see that. No, go ahead, Austin.
No, I'm just looking at other stories and about another issue with the Pele relationship with where was it? Lehua in Ohio. Am I saying that right?
Oh, the Ohia Lehua?
Yeah, and the flowers. Yeah. That's another relationship triangle, I guess, with Pele. I was like, oh my gosh, she's just a mess.
Yeah. Well, she wants what she wants, so who are we to say no?
I think if you're known for spitting lava, things like you're pretty much, it's like, hey, take it.
You can have it.
Yeah. My own Pele experience, which I didn't realize was one until after it happened, about 2010. The short story is, my ex-wife and I were living not too far from where I live now, and I remember dropping her and my daughter off at the apartment, and I had to go park on the main street, which is Dade Street. And we just come back from somewhere, and I'm getting out of the car this way, and I look across the hood, and on the sidewalk side is this weird-looking old Hawaiian woman, long black hair. You can tell she's kind of ancient, but she's wearing a turtleneck sweater, and she's got the Catholic schoolgirl skirt on, and the knee-high white mod 60s boots. And I thought to myself, this woman is crazy, just like that. And in the instance of thinking that, she looks at me and she says, "Take me to Zippy's." So Zippy's a local restaurant here that everybody goes to. And so I said, "Oh, well, Ashley Tutu, I'm going to Jack in the Box. It's down the road. I can take you." And she says, "No, I don't want to go to that one." And I said, "Well, which one do you want to go to?" And she says, "I want to go to the one in Wahiawa." So the one she's talking about is clear at the other end of the island. And I said, "Tutu, I'm sorry, I'm not going that way." And I kind of just got home, and I looked down, and I realized my daughter had left her Chuck E. Cheese pizza in the back seat. And so I said, "Tutu, there's pizza in the back seat if you want it." She says, "Okay." And so I reached in like this real quick, got it, and went to go slide it across the hood for her to get it, and she was gone. And on this particular street, it's so long and so wide that there's no way anybody could walk away without you seeing them. And so this is all happening within seconds. And so the second I realize this, I hear this customized car just whiz right by me. And it's going so fast, I get the jet wash and everything. And it blows this traffic light on an adjoining street, and it gets T-boned. And the car is totaled. And so I kind of realized that was supposed to be me in that accident. Because I was already all ready to take off and go. So, and I remember relaying the experience back, to my ex, and she didn't know what to think. And then I thought, I wonder if that was Pele. And at that moment, I kind of forgot that our side of the family, my mom's side, we are descended from Pele. So she's our deity, our what we call our Aumakua.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that didn't make me think that I was better than anybody else. That made me think, man, I better stay humble, keep my head down. And as my late brother-in-law used to say, don't act a fool.
Well, yeah, that's a humbling experience. I mean, when you realize that just how close you could have come, and whether you want to call it fate, whether you want to call it just intervention. I mean, that's amazing to recount something like that as how this comes out in. Oh man, I mean, it just you get the chills from that thing, just realizing it's from that. Wow.
I think when you're at a point in your life where you're going to make some really stupid decisions, I think that's when your ancestors, reach out from the other side and just, what are you doing?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That's one of those things too. It's like Austin's huge for saltwater fishing, and I was going to ask you is.
Oh, let me see that.
My mahi, sailfish, and then my recent one, the redfish. I love it.
What was it like getting it right in here? How did that feel?
This one?
Yeah.
It wasn't bad at all.
In the pocket.
Yeah. The funny thing is, it's like, the outline's supposed to hurt worse, and the color, you're numb. It was the opposite. The color hurt worse, which was incredible. I don't know why.
You're a brave man.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a tough place to get one.
Yeah.
Now, can you fish for the huma huma? Are you able to fish for that, or are they protected?
I think it's because it's the state fish.
And that's what, because that's.
Pretty
I know.
sure
I told him. Yeah, when I told them that, they're just like, I'll have to ask him about the huma huma nuka nuka apawa, and they're like, the what? I'm like, it's one of the Hawaiian things I actually know and I can memorize. My wife taught that to me, because she grew up, learning that about the state fish there in Hawaii.
Oh yeah, my daughter's in New Hampshire, and she wouldn't date her boyfriend who's from New Hampshire unless he could pronounce the name of the fish.
Yeah, and that's it's a beautiful fish too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those I really want to get a chance. If I get a chance to go there, I want to get on one of the tours with you and actually get to see some of these locations. Not only just, like I said, go to that property, and even if you had the chance to, look around and try to find, the Menehune. I mean, have you gone back in hopes to, see one again?
I have not, because of the shutdown. And Suze was really busy with the Japanese weddings. But I know for a fact there's other locations on Oahu where there are Menehune activity. And there's a place on the west side, an entire neighborhood that turned out to be an old fishing village. And the people who lived there would appease the Menehune, who also happened to have a path that went right through there. And so they had like a shrine to the Menehune. And so it turns out the Menehune like a certain type of red-colored fish called kala. And they have a certain type of opai or shrimp that you have to find and give to them as offerings. And then a particular kind of starchy banana. So the offerings are very, very particular. And so because, progress happened, the Menehune are showing up in these places, wreaking havoc because, no one's leaving offerings. And so when people call me to bless their houses in that area, I tell them this is what you have to leave. Oh, where am I supposed to find that? I'm like, Google, fish market.
Oh yeah, now do in any of these offerings, is it traditional to give poi or anything as one of the offerings, or is that just more of just like a traditional food that everybody eats?
It depends. I think you would offer poi in its original form as kalo or taro, steamed. That would probably be the way to offer it.
Okay.
But it depend upon your family tradition and what your family deity is.
Now, where would somebody go to try to figure out like who your family deity is?
You go to your elders or any one of your uncles and aunts, if your parents aren't around. But it's young people. Maybe it's the same today, I'm not sure, but as myself as a youth growing up, we're so into other things. The traditions just didn't matter anymore. And the last thing you want to do is talk to your parents about something, much less having to be seen with them in public. But, today in Hawaii, we have Hawaiian language preschools all the way up to colleges. So those traditions have been brought back. So now today,
That's awesome.
Young Hawaiian people go to seek out their elders, to get information, to find things out, about who they are. And I think that's the great thing about any society, not just Hawaii. If you have a better sense of yourself and who you are, where you come from, what your foundation is, the place where you live, the community where you exist is a lot more harmonious. And that's just my opinion.
Oh yeah, no. One of the things like we talk about, like we've talked to a couple guests, speaking a native language when you're doing a paranormal research, you're doing some investigation, because you'll see some of these shows, they'll go to a German castle and speak fluent English, and then, try to get a, nobody's going to understand English. It's a Germanic. So have you found that when you yourself, when you speak the native Hawaiian language, do you find that you get better results that way? Like there's more activity when you're actually speaking that instead of just going, is anybody here with us? Yeah.
I usually do offer a prayer or a chant in Hawaiian, so that raises the vibration a lot higher. And I have a group called the Grant Society, which stands for Ghost Research and Native Teachings. And so the group consists of people who have psychic abilities but didn't know what it was. And we also do blessings and investigations. So we have one woman in our group who's a medical examiner who speaks Chinese, who is Chinese. So if we're faced with that situation, then she would be the one to come forward and speak Cantonese or Mandarin.
It's kind of, you mentioned it a little bit a while ago, the kahuna. Has anybody ever asked you, are you a kahuna? Do you feel like you're kind of on that path?
Well, the word kahuna means, the hidden. It also means a master. So someone who's mastered a particular art. So you could be a kahuna of ethnobotany, kilohoku, which is astronomy.
Okay. My extensive Wikipedia research told me it said shaman, so that's why I was.
No, it's not shaman.
Yeah, so you know how reliable Wikipedia can be sometimes. I was looking it up, and I was just like, and it said master shaman. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll ask that down the way. And
I dare anyone to go up to a bruja and call her a shaman and see what she says.
Oh, right, write that down.
Yeah,
write that down, Austin and Chris. That's going to be your job.
I'm looking at your website. I see you have tours Mondays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Fridays. What time of the year is the best time to do these tours? Like spring? Oh, okay, I didn't know if there's like a certain time of the year it's best.
The question to really ask is, what moon phase is the best time to do the tour or not?
Yeah,
because sometimes we knowingly do tours on night marcher nights.
Yeah. I'm getting set up right now. I want to go. I got to find a place to stay.
Now, like over here, so particularly the shaman, fortune tell, the traditional fortune tell is in Hawaiian. Is there anybody, because you have tarot, you have runes, you have, the throwing of the bones, like voodoo, the reading the bones. Is there anything in Hawaii that has that traditional fortune telling?
Yeah, that would be someone called a kola or a prophet. And so in the old days, the kaula had no intermediary. Like you would have the person come talk to you. Oh, the kaula says, whatever. Anything the kaula or the kahuna received via divine inspiration was a direct message and very, very clear. A kahuna nui, who was the kahuna who served the paramount chief, was someone who had to know everything. So he had to know all the different arts and everything else, medicinal. What do we call it today?
Holistic.
Geography. He had to know
I'm
that.
just guessing.
Yeah. Architecture, alignment, ley lines, fighting. Yeah. So that was the kind of kahuna to go see. And so even with the certificate I received last year, Master Storyteller. So that term would make me a kahuna of storytelling. And the funny thing about that is the day I received that certificate, right after it was done, that was the shutdown.
Wow.
And so I thought to myself, man, how am I going to be a master storyteller if I can't tell stories on the tour, in person to people, the concerts? And then I was suddenly hit with this realization. This voice in my head said, it's not about you. And so I realized if you're a master of something, then you can do your craft anywhere, anytime, on the spot. And so that's when we started to do a lot of virtual storytelling, and it really picked up. I mean, it expanded our fan base. That's not why we do it, of course. But it was to the point that people were stopping by my house with sides of beef and briskets and, just stuff.
There's the offerings.
Yeah. And
I was going to ask you about that too. It's just, do you feel like that was something that, because obviously it looks like, what am I going to do? Do you think that that's helped you just, even more perfect your craft? The fact that now you were forced into this, you don't have any other option but to do what you are mastered of, your oral storytelling.
Yeah. It was that realization, just like you said it, but not in the form of a complaint. It was like, okay, so, if you're so bad, then, do something, make it work, figure it out, And I think that's what a true person who's mastered a craft does, instead of sitting back and saying, well, I'm the master now, so you got to come to me, and nobody shows up.
Wow. Well, that's incredible. I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Lopaka. I mean, I know some people that, they were really looking forward to this, and, and they've been saying that too. You just watching, and you lived up exactly to, what I was expecting to get. You are an amazing storyteller.
With humble thanks to you, and I'm glad I did well.
It's funny you say it's actually the other way around. We're always afterwards like, oh man, I'm glad we did okay.
Yeah.
It's more, I always talk about it, it's like the butterflies in the stomach. I'm always the one. I'm just a ball of nerves right before we go live.
Right.
And it takes me about 5 minutes to calm down.
And I'll talk to any bunch of guys who have beards. I think it's a lost art. I think we should be a secret society.
Let's do it.
I can only hope that I can have the beard as well polished as you, sir. That's it. Mine's looking a little sloppy compared to yours.
I know. Oh, hey, yeah. Nice comment from Joey Medea. Thank you so much.
Yeah, unfortunately, storytellers don't feel like they can tell their stories without a live audience, and you do an amazing job. I mean, everybody, mysteries-of-hawaii.com. Go there. I don't know if Austin has the picture of the book from Amazon or not.
I do.
Up there, the big show. But go to Amazon right now. Pick up his book, support him. You've actually, if I'm not mistaken, you have, is it 4 that you have listed on Amazon?
The 4th one's coming up.
Okay.
It's a history of night marchers, and then another one after that. And I've got a blog on the website, Ghost Next Door. So every year from July to August, I write 100 ghost stories. So far it's been 500.
Oh God, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have no life. It's just been
Oh no.
Now, have you thought about planning like doing a world record of the most stories told in a row and try to recount all 500 in one sitting?
That's actually the goal in a few years.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You got to do that live. I can't promise I'll stay awake for the entire thing. I might fall asleep. When you said it took 100 for 6 hours, I don't know if I'm going to make a 30-hour storytelling session. Yeah. I may pass out.
What I may have to do is get guys like you. We'll be like the 4-time tag team storytelling champions. I'll tag you in. Tell a story.
Yeah. As as we see you just sitting here, just slowly just fall off the chair and take a nap. We'll have to be able to text your wife and say, "Hey, gotta wake him up. I'm running out of stories, and I can't make these things up. No, people know I'm lying."
Yeah. Don't tempt me, man. Don't say stuff like that. I might actually end up doing it.
Yeah, if you do, that's something to definitely, even through, for charity, whatever, just one of those things. That would be an amazing thing to do, almost just like a ghost telethon. Just have something come in here. It's like donate, come in here and watch this thing. 'Cause that would be fantastic.
I'll tell you what. If we do it, I will do it on the premise that the three of you contribute your own ghost stories.
Deal.
Yeah.
Deal. I could do that. I could write one down. I've got a pretty cool one. I still remember it from a little guy.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Deal.
All right. Well, everybody go. I apologize. I'm trying to real quick get that one from the Amazon book here. I think I just got it here.
Yeah.
There it is. Let me get this up here on the screen so everybody can see it. It's Mysteries of Honolulu, and you go there. You can get it. I mean, $9.99 for a paperback. I mean, that's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic deal.
That's all my wife. She runs the business. I just show up and talk.
But that's what you need. You need a good partnership, and it seems like that's working really, really well. So Everybody, go support them. Watch his live programs on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and are you doing a show tonight?
Doing a show later tonight.
Yep. So tune in to Mysteries of Hawaii on Facebook. Go there, watch them. Show them some love, and mahalo, sir, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Very humbled. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Blessings to you and your family. And like I said, you guys stay safe, and we look forward to the next time we can talk with you.
All right. No dancing on the bar, by the way.
Okay. You got it.
All right.
All right, everybody. That was Lopaka Kapanui. Amazing storytelling.
All right, so I just started a GoFundMe to send me to Hawaii. So guys, check it out. Please help me. I need to go.
Just not only just so you can experience everything. I mean, that would be
Jesus. My daughter just scared me.
This is a ghost story. So, all right, everybody. Once again, Rob, Lopaka Kapanui, thank you so much for coming in. Everybody, please go like their page on Facebook. Support them as well. Everybody, you can go support us as well at patreon.com/3beards podcast. Nanny Cakes, I want to thank our sponsor, Nanny Cakes 407. Give her a call at 407-923-2898 in the Central Florida area. Mention us, and you're going to save 50% on your cake order. Go support her. She's been an amazing sponsor and supporter of ours. Go to all the social media, please. We're trying to boost our numbers on all of it. So if you take a second, go subscribe on YouTube. Help us out, because it seems like every now and then Facebook, for some reason, doesn't send out the links like when we go live. It's really weird. But you can watch it live on YouTube as well. So Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, we're 3 Beards Podcast. Go there. We also have 3 Beards Vault. So all the social medias, just check us out. We are being rebroadcast at 8 p.m. every Thursday night on Patriot Radio on the Zeno app, courtesy of J&J Beard Company out of New Jersey. Go to jnjbeardcompany.com and co.com and check them out, and make sure you let them know that you heard about them from us. So everybody, thanks for watching. Good night.